Dude, I'm totally tripping out right now because I learned this thing from John Maxwell, leadership coach, about spending time being creative and spending time um, sitting on your ideas and just like processing them and asking the question why. So I got my journal out, and this is like my business journal, like idea journal, not Jesus journal. It's like two separate things, but at the top I just wrote like humility breeds desire, and that's something I've always said, at least for like the past year. God's been teaching me that, but then I asked the question why, and it was like, well, because like when we know how far we are from a goal, it makes us want to pursue it more. It's like, shoot, I thought I was right here, but I'm actually here. Like I need to go. Like I thought I was so close to God, but I'm not. Like I need to go get in the prayer closet. Or man, I thought I was so close to that internship, but I didn't have enough certifications. Like I need to go get certifications and like little things like that. But I was like, okay, well then why? And I just kept asking the question why. And it was like, because of this. I asked why, because of this. Well, why again? Because of this. And until it led me um, to realize that like everyone else shows their greatest like moments and traits on the outside, and then we compare ourselves, and that can give us like a sense of humility, but it's really insecurity. And then I started like get all philosophical on the difference between humility and insecurity, and how like insecurity is so much of comparing, but humility can come from comparing too. So I was like, how does that work? So I'm still wrestling with that, but so I'm still like, foundational key thing is that humility breeds desire, and the more humble we are, the more we have a desire towards whatever thing we're humble in. And then I found something that's wrong with that. The only time that humility doesn't breed desire is when the result is seemingly out of reach. So, for instance, this is why grace is so important, because let's say God humbles us and He shows us, hey, you thought you were here, but really you're not like walking in freedom from that sin because you're doing this, and this. Like this is where I want you to be. But if we're not looking through grace at that point, like this is where we need to be. We're not looking at grace to that point. Then we'll go, oh, like that's unattainable. Like the character of Jesus is unattainable. The freedom in Jesus is unattainable. And if it's not attainable, then we'll just straight up like walk away. Straight up walk away. Straight up give up. Or we'll like get into works to try to get there. But looking through the lens of grace is like, man, Christ lives in me. I have a relationship with the Most High God. This goal is attainable because Christ lives in me. He's the hope of glory. So then it breeds us to pursue, to desire, to seek after that freedom or that calling or that deeper level of maybe prayer or getting in the Word or whatever it is that we just receive humility in. When we have a lens of grace, we pursue it. When we have a lens of condemnation, we sit in it and we crawl and we shrivel up like a raisin and we die. So that's why grace is so important. And then I started thinking about like things being within reach, and then I looked up the definition of desire and looked up the definition of humility and being humble. And one big thing in humility and being humble was submission. I started to realize that like part of reaching that goal or that result or that outcome is humbling ourselves and submitting ourselves to the process to get there. And so, sure, I might think that an example I wrote down in my book was like let's say there's this young kid, right? We've all been there. He wants money, but he has none. And he wants to be a millionaire, but all he does is watch YouTube videos and think that he's going to get there just by watching YouTube videos. And so he's obviously super far from the goal of being a millionaire. But then he hits a point in life where he has to pay bills. So the dream is either attainable, and he's going to pursue it, and he's going to submit himself to the process, and he's actually going to submit himself to the laws of making money, which is working, spending time, providing value, and he's going to get there. Or he's going to stay prideful, and he's going to try to go after the goal without submitting himself to the process. He's going to hit a wall. He's going to go, I don't understand. I still want the goal. It's still attainable. I can still get there. But he's not submitting himself to the process of, I have to do the work. I have to provide value. I have to learn. Those kinds of things. And that's why God says He opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble, because they submit themselves to the process. Secondly, if He believes it's unattainable, then he's going to settle and go get a 9 to 5, and the goal goes away. He's going to walk through life, and it's this weird mumbo jumbo. So learn about that. And then, see, this is all just like happening in my brain. It's crazy. So cool. And then willpower. I learned about willpower too, because it coincides with everything. But willpower is fighting for the seemingly unattainable. So there's this goal that we have, and it's unattainable, and we're like, man, I can never reach it. But honestly, what if I do? What if I make it? Like, maybe, like, it's unattainable, but like, imagine if I made $1 million. And you use emotion to propel yourself. So you're going to watch some David Goggins, you're going to get some caffeine in you, you're going to get some nicotine in you, and you're going to say, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. And you use emotion to propel yourself. And then also, you use the outcome itself to get there. And it's just like the greatness of the outcome. Like, man, when I get there, I'm going to have this. I'm going to have this. When I make $1 million, I'm going to buy this car, and I'm going to finally take my girlfriend out to lunch that isn't McDonald's, and I'm going to, just thinking about the outcome and then emotions, and that's what's propelling you. But over time, you run out of steam on the emotions. You can't upkeep emotions. There's simply going to be days when you wake up and you don't want to. And then secondly, the outcome, you start to ask why. When you ask why, it falls apart. And so both of these motivators are dead. They're gone. And that's what happens when we have an unattainable goal, but we're still trying to reach it through willpower. So how we counteract that is logic. If you logically believe, if you logically convince yourself that I can get here, this is attainable. Like, either someone else did it, or I know that I can because I'm that guy, or whatever it is. Like, if you believe that that is attainable, then you can use logic, you can use frameworks, you can use lessons, you can use equations, you can use whatever you want, even if it's made up, to logically propel yourself. So there's days when emotion pushes you, and it pushes you really fast. But then when you don't have emotion, and you usually shrivel up and die, you go, wait, no, I know that if I just put A plus B, I'm going to get C, and I'm just going to keep going. Keep putting A plus B. Like, just keep focusing on inputs. Just keep focusing on inputs. And you reach that goal. And then, secondly, you're not just relying on the goal. So that when you get there, it's like, okay, I submitted myself to the process. And that's why so many people talk about loving the process and falling in love with the process. But it all ties together, because humility plus an attainable desire breeds desire and breeds us pushing towards that thing. And when we submit ourselves to the process, we're using logic to get there. And so for me, a personal example is I was told that when I create content, I will get to this place of having a personal brand and having influence over others, and there will be people just like me that want to know what I know and want to receive what I receive, meaning I can serve more people. And that's what influence is. I can serve more people. But I'm like, okay, well, I want that goal. Sounds awesome, and I can attach all the little bells and whistles to that I want, like, oh, like money, or like doing something I love, or whatever, like, just to make that goal awesome. And I can use emotion. Man, I want to create content, and it's gonna be cool, and I just got this new camera, and it's gonna be so cool. But sooner or later, some days I just ask myself, like, why the heck am I creating content? Like, this is ridiculous. And so this starts to kind of shrivel up. And of course, I try to keep the vision in front of myself of influence, and then the emotion definitely shrivels up. There's days I wake up and I'm like, I do not want to do this. This sucks. And that's when I look at the frameworks and I go, wait a minute. Everyone said if I post for a year consistently, then this will happen. Okay? Everyone said if I focus on the 60-second framework, which is something I learned from the funnel hacking community, Eric Thane, shout out, then I'm going to get there. And everyone says if I use this or use this, I mean, there's a million frameworks out there, but I'm just submitting myself to it. I'm humbling myself and going, I don't know how to get there, but I'm going to submit myself to a few frameworks so I can get there. And so I've been using charisma hacking, the 60-second framework, and just like a few things I saw online to be like, okay, if I logically do this every day, if I do A plus B, then I'm going to get C. If I do A plus B, I'm going to get C. So on those days when I wake up and I don't want to make content, okay, if I just do A plus B, I'm going to get C. If I do A plus B, I'm going to get C. And it's like, that's what keeps me going. So we use emotion to move fast. We use logic to stay steady and to move farther and to keep going. And then the promised outcome is just something that we use to like get there. But that's the main thing. We use emotion to combat logic, and logic to combat a lack of emotion to get to our desired goal. Humility breeds desire when it's attainable. That's all I got. That's what I spent like 45 minutes just like writing in my notebook all of that crap. It's so fun. This is awesome. Anyways, stay on the path.